everyone, my name is Chelsea and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I'm talking to you about series that I have DNF'd. So recently I did a video doing an overview of my series tracker, letting you know exactly how many series I've started, how many I've finished, and now we're officially at the point of the ones that I have DNF'd. We're doing a little deep dive into like the different categories that I have here, and then from now on, like when we go into every new year, we'll be able to see like what has changed, what series I've started in the year, what things that I've officially finished, anything that I've DNF'd, like the new stuff. But so for today, it is time to talk about all of the series that I have here that I have DNF'd. I'm going to be bringing up my entire spreadsheet so you guys can see that again. And so as we can see here, like we did last time, I have 52% of my series finished. This is going to be including things that are completed, as well as things that I have DNF'd. My current total number of series is 324, and this is for everything that I have ever started, except for maybe some things from like elementary school, maybe junior high, back before I was actually tracking things on Goodreads, and maybe forgot to put back in. But as you can see, my biggest number of things that have been finished is through DNFs. I have 117 total DNF'd series. These are gonna be things where I just didn't like the book or didn't like the series, and so I DNF'd, or I sort of think I've fallen out of wanting to read the series, and so I have DNF'd. None of these are going to be counted if I didn't finish the first book. I've at least read one book in the series before deciding to DNF it. If I DNF'd the first book, I didn't even put the series on this list. I could be persuaded to continue a series if it's something that I just feel like maybe I'm not as interested in anymore currently, but if you guys really love it, let me know. There's lots of different reasons why I have DNF'd stuff, and so that's what we're gonna be doing today. We're just gonna be going through and telling you the series that I've DNF'd and probably like the reason why, if it's because I didn't like it or if it's because I'm just not as interested. And so because we have to do 117 series, without further ado, let's jump into it. So as we can see here, the very first one that I have is a DNF'd series. I DNF'd the DFZ series by Rachel Aaron. I read the first book, which was Minimum Wage Magic, and I just gave it like a 3 star. So it was one of those things where I was like, it was fine, but because of that, I wasn't too sure that I wanted to continue the series, so I did DNF. Then I also have The Hazelwood by Melissa Albert. Back when this first came out, I don't think I knew it was going to be a series. I think it's like only 2 books potentially, but it was another one where I only really gave the book 3 stars. I wanted more from it, and because of that, I wasn't going to continue. The next one I have here is the 7 Deadly Sins series, I think, by Fisher Amelie. I loved book 1, 5 out of 5 stars, but it's a series that has not been finished. Like, I think she was intending to do like 1 book for every deadly sin, and each book is going to be following a completely different character. And I realized after a while that I loved book 1 when I read it. It does have a little bit of like white saviorism, so I don't know if I would love it as much nowadays if I was going to read it, but at the same time, I wasn't interested in any of the other characters that it could potentially be about, so I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna keep it as like a standalone in my brain. I actually have the book on my shelf. I just don't think I'm going to continue it all. Next, we have the Lux series by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is a 5-book series, and I got 4 books in. I really enjoyed what I did read from it, but I don't know what happened. I read them like when they had a reprint. Like, it wasn't even originally when the book series came out, and then I just never finished it. And I think part of it is that knowing I would sort of want to reread all 4 books in the series before I got to book 5, that is making me feel like I just don't think I'm ever gonna finish it, because I would have to take that time to reread everything first. And so as of right now, I'm not finishing that. Then I also have the Phoenix Rising series by Quinn Arthurs and Harper Wilde. This is a series that, according to my spreadsheet here, has 7 books. I read 2, and I think the first one was like okay, but it ended on like not even a cliffhanger. It ended in the middle of the climax, and then book 2 was like the second half of that book. So that's the reason I read 2 books. I didn't like how book 2 went at all. I think I gave it like 2 stars. So this was one of those ones where I was like, I sort of ended up hating what I read, and so that was just not for me. The next one I have here is the Red Queen series by Victoria Aveyard. I read 1 book of this series. I gave it 5 stars. I loved it, but it took me forever. I think I read the first book like right after it came out. I would have to reread that one to continue, and I just sort of fell out of wanting to read those books at that time, like the young adult sort of fantasy, that kind of stuff. But I loved book 1 when I read it. I don't own any of those anymore, so this would be something like if I was gonna pull it out of the DNF, I would probably borrow from my library, maybe an audiobook or something like that, because I do remember loving the first book. The next one I have here is the Last True Vampire series by Kate Baxter. I read 1 book and again gave it like a 3 star. I did not particularly like the tropes that were in it, and I just don't see myself continuing. Moving down a little bit more now, which is good, we have the True North series by Serena Bowen. I read book 1, and again, I think I gave this one 3 stars. It was, again, just not my favorite. I have some other Serena Bowen things that I would like to try, although one other book that I tried, I DNF'd. But I have 1 more that I'm willing to give a try. We'll give her a 3rd time, hopefully is the charm. But yeah, just not my sort of thing. Then we also have the Chronicles of Vladimir Todd series by Heather Brewer. This is an older series that I read like when I was first going into college. Like I think I had just graduated high school. So I read the first 2 books out of 5. And I really enjoyed them when I read them. It's about an 8th grade, I think first book is when he's in 8th grade, an 8th grade vampire sort of thing. And it was just like a fun time, but again, it's been forever and I just think I've aged out of it a little bit. Let's go down a little bit more. Oh, the next one we have here is probably gonna be very controversial. I do not think I'm gonna finish The Dresden Files by Jim Butcher. I read the first 2 books. I did enjoy them. But after that, I had seen some people talk a little bit more about some of the misogynistic tendencies in the books. And while they were fun, I just don't think I want to continue. There's like a 17 book series. Like that is a lot. And so based on some of the stuff I had heard, I just don't think it's necessarily for me. Although if you do like those more grittier mystery paranormal things, you might really enjoy it. I just don't think it's my type. Moving down, we actually have a Rachel Caine here. I have a ton of series by Rachel Caine that I have started and that I have not started, and they're on my TBR, and I've really been enjoying them. However, one series I have DNF'd, and that is the Weather Warden series. It is a 9-book series, and I only read book 1. I somehow made my way all the way through it, but my biggest issue with the series is I didn't think it was as interesting as some of the other books that I had read by her, but the thing is, the chapters are so freaking long. I think that book is like a few hundred pages, let's just say 300 pages, and it had maybe 4 chapters in the entire book. Like the chapters were like 80 pages, and I'm like, no, I cannot do that. I DNF'd. Next one we have here is The Ender's Saga by Orson Scott Card. I read that book way back in the day, like middle school or something like that, and I'm pretty sure we all know why I have DNF'd the series. This author is not a good person. Then going down again, we have the Gallagher Girls series by Allie Carter. I have been semi-interested in picking this back up, but this is one of those things where it says I've read 2 books. I might have read 3. I don't fully remember. This is one of those things that like I was reading probably back in like high school and enjoying them. It's a YA series about girls that go to this school to become like spies and things. It was fun, but I definitely ended up aging out of it, I think, and so it seems like it could still be fun though, but again, maybe my library. The next one I have here is the Charlotte Holmes series by Brittany Cavallaro. I read 2 out of 4 books, and I really, really enjoyed book 1. I think I gave it 4 or 5 stars. I hated the characterization and things that happened in book 2. Like, I absolutely hated the ending and decided I could not continue. It always makes me wonder when that kind of stuff happens, when you love one book and then hate the other. Like, how? I don't know. It happens. The next one I have here is The School for Good and Evil by Soman Chinani. Again, okay, very, very similar. There's apparently like 6 books in this series because we have like a trilogy and like another trilogy and things like that. I read 1 book and I DNF'd book 2. Book 1 I really enjoyed. I think I gave it 4 stars. I loved the juxtaposition of like the good versus evil and thinking, one girl was going to be good, but she ended up in the opposite, and then, you know, one girl was going to be evil, and it was opposite. I love the friendship element. It was so, so good. Book 2 brings them back, but it ends up being boys versus girls, and it felt very reductive and misogynistic and like reducing what book 1 was to like nothing, and I hated it. I DNF'd. Let's go down again. I have the Gumiho series by Kat Cho. I read 1 book out of 2. I loved Wicked Fox so, so much. 5 out of 5 stars. But again, it was one of those things that by the time book 2 came out, I was gonna need to reread book 1, and I wasn't as interested in book 2 anymore. And so I did decide I probably wasn't gonna continue. Let's go down even further. I like when we can skip a lot. Oh, okay, so here's another one, sort of like Rachel Kane. I have Cassandra Clare. I have loved everything by Cassandra Clare until now. I have the Chronicles of Castellane series. That's the one that has Swordcatcher and the Ragpicker King. I read both of those. I'm technically caught up on this series right now. But I don't think these ones are for me. The writing style is very different than all of her Shadowhunters books, and I just don't find myself wanting to continue necessarily. The audiobooks were better because I definitely had to switch in the middle of book 1 from reading it physically to an audiobook. But I don't think this is a series that I'm going to buy or continue. If I do for some reason decide I'm missing out and I want to do it, it's going to be through audiobooks through the library. It's just not for me. Going down even more, we have the Matched series by Ali Condi. This is like an early 2000s YA dystopian. I read 1 book out of 3, enjoyed it well enough, but again, I aged out of that kind of stuff, and so I never picked up book 2 for some reason, and eventually I was just like, you know what, I'm never gonna actually reach for it and read it. Okay, we have The Maze Runner by James Dashner. Okay, another YA dystopian. I read 2 out of 3 books. I could have definitely finished it, and I didn't. I liked book 1 a lot. I think book 2 was okay, and then again, just I never picked it up, and I just don't think I'm going to. Going down even further, okay, we have the Something Dark and Holy series by Emily A. Duncan. This one, I read the first one. I was okay with it. I was already debating if I was going to continue or not, and then it came out that the author was bullying other authors, and so, yeah. Continuing even more, we have the Atlanteans series by Kevin Emerson. I actually really enjoyed book 1. It was a fun time, very mystical, but also a little dystopian. Like, it was set in an Earth that had climate change stuff happen previously, but then we also had Atlantis type of stuff. But again, never picked up the next books in the series, and even though I enjoyed the first one, I just don't think I'm going to reread them and continue. Apparently I'm very good at DNFing series. I feel like sometimes when I try to DNF books, like I'm like, oh, but what if it's going to get better? And then it really takes it to be like, I have not read in a week because I don't want to read the book I'm currently reading. And so I'm just like, okay, finally I need to DNF. Whereas it feels like here on my series, I'm very liberal about being like, yeah, I'm never gonna pick that up again. So the next one I have here is The Lone City by Amy Ewing. I think I actually read this one as like an ARC or something like that. Like I never had the physical copy. And I remember liking it well enough. I gave it like 4 stars, but again, I think it was another dystopian type of thing. YA dystopian at that. And I, at some point in time, must have just not been liking the YA dystopian type of stuff because quite a few of these seem to fit in that category. So yeah, I just decided not to continue. We're gonna scroll down a little bit more. We're getting to a bunch of DNFs in just a second. The next one I have here is the Ava Delaney series by Claire Farrell. This is something I read forever ago. I read 1 book out of 6. I think I got it as an ebook for free. I could not tell you a single thing about this because I don't even remember. I can barely picture the cover in my head. I want to say maybe YA vampires. I don't know, so DNF. The next one I have here is the Forensic Mysteries series by Elaine Ferguson. This is another one that I read the first book forever ago, like maybe actually in high school. I don't remember anything about it except for it was more of like a, not exactly true crime, but like murder mystery crime thing. Yeah, I couldn't tell you anything about it. I think that's where we're getting to a lot of things down here, is things that I read forever ago that I couldn't tell you much about, and so because of that, like I'm not going to necessarily want to pick it up and continue. So we have the Incarceron series by Catherine Fisher. Again, read it forever ago, potentially in high school. I don't remember anything about it. We have the Hush Hush series by Becca Fitzpatrick. I do remember this. I have at some point wanted to continue because it is Fallen Angels and stuff. Again, very early 2000s YA paranormal, probably even like paranormal romance type of stuff. I liked the first 2 books and then it took me forever to continue, so I don't think I'm going to. We also have The City of Diamonds and Steel by Francesca Flores. Another sort of dystopian one. It's only a duology. I could have finished it, but I don't remember anything else about it. We have the Kingsbridge series by Ken Follett. I think that's the Pillars of the Earth one, is book 1. I did read that. I borrowed it from somebody that I worked with when I was in my early 20s. I hated every second of it because it is a like huge historical book that goes through like multiple generations of a family, and everything just felt very dramatic and sad, and I did not like my time with it, but I finished that book because I borrowed it. The next one I have is the Tower Knight series by Angela J. Ford. There's 5 books. I read 1. It was okay. I just really wanted more buildup from the romance and stuff. There was another book that I read by Angela J. Ford that I felt the exact same way about, even though it wasn't part of a series. And so because of that, I think I'm just done with this author. She's just not for me. The next one I have is Frida Klein series by Nikki French. This one's gonna be a little bit more mystery, and I think the main character is like a psychiatrist. I read book 1 because I think I won it in a Goodreads giveaway in like 2012. I don't know anything else about it now, and I don't think I'm gonna continue. Going down even further, we have the Precious Stone trilogy by Kirsten Gier. That's like the Ruby Red series. I really liked book 1, but back when I read it, these were books that had been translated from German into English, and it was really hard to get a hold of, I think, book 2 and continue the series. I think I just might have read book 1 too early. And so by the time book 2 and book 3 came out, I wasn't interested anymore. But it's like a time travel YA. I really liked book 1. The next one we have is These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. I read book 1, and it's a duology. I didn't really like book 1 at all until the very end. Like, I almost picked up book 2 because I liked the ending of book 1, and it's sort of a cliffhanger and I needed to know more, but I didn't particularly like anything else about it. It is a Romeo and Juliet retelling, but it was just not for me. The next one I have here is the Gone series by Michael Grant. I read 2 out of 9 books. It has some problematic elements in the series, but back when I read it, I did enjoy it, but not enough to want to get 9 books in this series. I also decided to DNF Something from the Night Side by Simon R. Green. I read this last year, actually, as a part of a vlog for something. And it was a little bit dark, which was fine. Supposed to be like paranormal and stuff, but it was also just like not my thing, a little bit boring. It was just like, it's okay. I also DNF'd the Less series by Andrew Sean Greer. Back when I read this, it was a standalone. It has now since had a sequel. I gave it 4 stars, but it's very literary fiction, and I don't particularly like literary fiction. I did like, by the end, I did like the book. I liked what it did, but not enough to be like, okay, let's do another one. I also DNF'd the Giordano Family by W.S. Greer. I should probably say, I did a vlog where I was reading things by people that had my name, first name, last name, maiden name, which is why we have Greer on here. And I did this back before Kayla did it for Books and Lala. So just putting that out there. I love seeing her do it as well, but I didn't pick these books because I wanted to read them. I picked them because of the name, and the Giordano Family one is like a mafia romance, not my thing. I also DNF'd the Ferals series by Jacob Gray. This is a middle grade where like I think the main character can talk to animals potentially. It was fine. It was fine. Then we also have the Gordy Smith series by Mary Downing Hahn. I read this book, the first book of the series, back in elementary school. It's Stepping on the Cracks, and I really did enjoy it back in the day. Did not know it was a series, and I read it in elementary school. I'm not gonna read this. Then we have the Kingdom series by Marie Hall. I read 3 books in this series. I actually had to look it up on Goodreads because I don't even know what this series is, but I read 3 books out of 11. These are retellings of fairy tales. So like book 1 was called Her Mad Hatter, book 2 is Gerard's Beauty, and book 3 is Red and Her Wolf. So we have like Alice in Wonderland, Beauty and the Beast, and Little Red Riding Hood. They're like sort of like romance, fantasy, paranormal romances that I read way back in the day. like 2014, 2015. It's been over 10 years. I'm not going to continue. I also DNF'd the Royal Romance series by Karina Halley. I read book 1 out of 4. It was fine. Again, just not necessarily my thing. I would be willing to read other books by this author though. Okay, moving on down, I have DNF'd the Kiss Quotient series by Helen Huang. I read book 1 and book 3. Didn't get to book 2 because I just never had that one. And I gave both of the series 3 stars. I think what it did for representation, especially like the autism rep, it does very well. They're just not my thing. They very much focus more on the spice and sexy times than the relationship building, and that's not my thing. Then I also have the Edinburgh Nights series by T.L. Huchu. I read book 1 out of apparently 4 now, I didn't realize. It was fine. I just didn't particularly like everything about it. I think I gave it like a 3. Then I've also DNF'd the Ghost Girl series by Tanya Hurley. This is a book series that I read way back in the day, probably around high school. Read book 1 out of 3. It was fine. I just never really saw myself continuing. I've also DNF'd the Alvarez and Pescoli series by Lisa Jackson. This is very much like a more mystery, romantic suspense type of thing. I ended up reading book 4 out of 8. I think because I won it in a Goodreads giveaway or something like that. It was fine, but I didn't see myself going back and reading everything. Then I have also DNF'd the Left Behind Kids series. You can see what my childhood was like. I read like the first 8 out of that series according to my stuff here. This again would have been stuff that I read like in middle school or something like that. There's 40 books in this series and I don't give a shit anymore, so yeah. I have also DNF'd the Genius series by Catherine Jinks. I read book 1 out of 3. I remember liking it well enough, but again, I just don't think I would ever continue. I DNF'd the Little Blue Envelope series by Maureen Johnson. There are 2 books in this series, and back when I read this one, I didn't realize it was a series. I think book 1 was a good standalone, and this was again back like in high school potentially, so I just don't ever see myself trying to read it as a series. I also DNF'd the Space Between Worlds series by Micaiah Johnson. I loved book 1. 5 out of 5 stars. Absolutely loved it. I had an arc of book 2 that I DNF'd because I hated it. Like, how does this stuff happen? I don't know. But basically it just sort of felt like the characters that I knew and loved from book 1 were being redacted again in book 2, and things were just not, no. No. I also DNF'd the Howl's Moving Castle series by Diana Wynne Jones. I read book 1 out of 3. The Howl's Moving Castle book was fine. The writing style was not really my thing, and so I just don't see myself continuing. Now we're gonna go down past quite a bit of stuff that's in progress, which is great. I like to see that we don't have a bunch of red. The next one I do have here though is the Briar U series by Elle Kennedy. I read book 1 out of 4. I thought it was fine, not really my thing, and some stuff has come out about the author recently about, what would it be, like lesphobia, that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's okay. The next one I have here is the Gifted Clans series by Gracie Kim. I read book 1 out of 3. It was middle grade fantasy, and again, it was fine. I just didn't really see myself wanting to know more in more books, but I do think it would be good for a middle grade audience. It just like wasn't really my thing. Going even further down, okay, another one that people might be mad about, I DNF'd the Nevernight Chronicles by Jay Kristoff. I read book 1 out of 3. I thought it was fine. I did not like the ending. I did not want to even know how we got from that ending to the relationship and stuff in book 2 and 3. I knew it was coming because I've seen like art and spoilers and things. And then also it had some like questionable content with like blood magic and things like that, potential anti-Semitism elements, and so yeah, I just don't ever see myself reaching for that series. Let's continue. I have the Fong Brothers series by Jackie Lau. Jackie Lau, I think, is another author that I think I might be done with. I read 1 book from the Fong Brothers series, and I think I read 1 book that was a novella that was completely separate. And again, it's just like the actual development of the relationship is not quite as much as I would want compared to like the spicy sexiness. And so I think I'm done with that. I also DNF'd City of Villains by Estelle Lore. I hated the book that I read because the elements that they were using for like the Disney villain stuff just did not work for me, like at all. So yeah, let's continue down more. I DNF'd the Montague Siblings series by Mackenzie Lee. I loved book 1, but I heard some not so good things about other series and things that this author did, and so I just, you know, I'm okay. I also DNF'd the Thousand Worlds series by Yoon Ha Lee. This was a middle grade series that was very fantasy and sci-fi, and it just literally had too many elements for me. I wished it took a few things back and dove into it deeper. Then I also DNF'd the Wondrous Strange series by Leslie Livingston. This is a book that I read back like in college. I can't tell you a single thing about it. I also DNF'd the Princess Protection Program by Alex London. I think I gave that book like 3 stars. It just wasn't as much as I wanted it to be. I DNF'd the Young Elite series by Marie Lu. I only read 1 book out of 3. It was fine. I think I gave it at least 4 stars, but I never really saw myself going back to it. I DNF'd the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J Maas. I read 2 books out of 7. I liked what I read well enough, but I never really wanted to pick up more. Same thing with the ACOTAR series by Sarah J Maas. I read 1 book out of 7. I liked it well enough, but I never really saw myself going back for more. I DNF'd the Shatter Me series by Tahira Mafi. I only read book 1, and again, I think I gave that one 3 stars, so just not for me. I DNF'd the Wicked Years series by Gregory Maguire. This is the one that has Wicked and Son of a Witch and things. I read 3 out of those 4 books. But I reread Wicked, and they're just very dark and a little bit too literary for me. Like, I liked what they were trying to do, but if we're really being honest, I read the 3 that I first read, like, in high school and college, and they're just not my thing. I also DNF'd the Declaration series by Gemma Malley. I read 1 book out of 3, but again, I read it like in high school. I could not tell you a single thing about it. I think it's dystopian. I also DNF'd the Song of Ice and Fire series by George R.R. Martin. I read 1 book. I gave it like 3 stars because I was so bored until like the last bit. And I just never really wanted to pick it back up. Let's continue. I DNF'd the Tristan Strong series by Kwame Mbalia. I read book 1. I liked it well enough, gave it a 3 stars, but I just don't think the characterization of the gods was as much as I wanted. People always compare it to like Percy Jackson and things like that, but the Greek mythology and the gods in that series felt so much more important, and the myths and things than the other Black folk tales were in Tristan Strong, so I just wanted more from that. I also DNF'd the Necromancer series by Lish McBride. I think this is vampires and werewolves, but again, it's been so long, I'm not going to continue. I don't know. I then also DNF'd the One of Us is Lying series by Karen M. McManus. I read this last year, didn't really enjoy myself, and I do not want to continue. Then I also DNF'd the Arclight series by Jocelyne L. McQueen. It was a duology. I read book 1. I really enjoyed it. It's dystopian / sci-fi, but I never was able to get my hands on book 2, and by the time I probably could have, I just wasn't as interested anymore. Let's continue. I DNF'd 2 series by Brandon Mole. Fablehaven, I read 2 books out of 5. I did enjoy those. And then I also tried Sky Raiders. I read 1 book out of 5, apparently. But they're middle grade and they're fine. It was just nothing that was ever like on the top of my priority list, and so by the time we're here now in 2026, I don't remember a ton of what happened, and so they're not something I probably will continue with. I also did DNF the Immortal series by Alison Noel, another one from way back in the day that I probably can't tell you anything about. It's paranormal. Maybe vampires reincarnation? I don't know. The next one we have is the Onyeka series by Tola Okogwu. I read the first book, enjoyed myself enough. I think I gave it like 3.5 or 4 stars. It's very much like Black characters meets X-Men, which is very intriguing, but at the same time, I just don't think I was as intrigued as I wanted to be, so I don't know if I'm going to continue. So as of right now, it's a DNF. We also have the Delirium series by Lauren Oliver, very early 2000s dystopian type of stuff. I read 2 books out of 3. I just probably won't continue with that. We also have the Memory War series by Karen Osborne. This is an adult sci-fi, I want to say. I don't remember a single thing about it. So, yeah. Let's continue even more. The next one I have here is The Inheritance Cycle by Christopher Paolini. I read 2 books out of 5. I read them back when they were first coming out, because it's like the Aragon series. It has been so long, I don't think I'm going to continue with those. But I liked them when they were first coming out. I also DNF'd the Fae Guardians series, specifically Season of the Wolf, which is like, I think the first 3 books out of however many books are in this series. I was only okay with everything that happened in book 1. I think I gave it a 3-star. It was a lot of stuff, but it didn't feel like we ever really got like a plot going and a conclusion. It just felt like, I don't know, like a prologue almost, and I was just, no. Let's go down more. We have a lot more red here. Okay, I DNF'd the Shadow House series by Dan Pawlowski. This is a very early middle grade series that is horror based. I read 2 out of 4 books. I did enjoy my time with them, but I don't see myself really continuing. I also DNF'd the Want series by Cindy Pon. This is like a heist book, and I just didn't really like my time with book 1. I don't think I'm the biggest heist plot reader. When that kind of stuff happens, I just don't always like them. The next one I have here is the Nax Invasion series by G.S. Prendergast. This one is sci-fi stuff, and there was a whole plot line with like people being killed by aliens and whatnot. And they're like killed in a certain way, but later in the book, a baby was killed, but not in that way that they were doing stuff. It was like left to starve and stuff. And I was like, nope, no. The next one I DNF'd was the Storm series by Ripley Proserpina and Rebecca Royce. I liked book 1 well enough, but I did not like book 2. It felt very middle book syndrome, but like in a really bad way, and I just did not want to continue. I also DNF'd the Royals and Romance series by Sarah Rosh. This is the one that was The Nightmare Before Christmas, which a lot of people did love, so just take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, obviously. I was going in for more cozy fantasy romance type of stuff. It ended up being very like dark political fantasy, and I just was not really here for that. Okay, moving down, I DNF'd the Temperance Brennan series by Kathy Reichs. So this is the book series that Bones, the TV show, was based on. I read book 1 out of 24, that's a lot. And I don't really remember much about it at all, actually. But I love the TV series Bones, and I just don't think I want to read the books. I also DNF'd the Miss Peregrine's Peculiar Children series. I read book 1, loved book 1, but then never really continued with it. And so, yeah. I also DNF'd the Trollkin Lovers series by Leon Riley. I read book 2 out of 7 because you can read them as standalones and things. Monster romances is something that I'm still trying out, but this was definitely just not one for me personally. Let's go down. I DNF'd the Wicked Villains series by Katie Robert. Again, too much like erotica, spiciness stuff for me personally. I read the first book because I wanted to try it because everybody was loving it, but I was hoping for more plot and characters, which I did not get. I understand why people like it. It's not for me. I also DNF'd the Divergent series by Veronica Roth. I read the first book out of 3. I read this back when I was first working at Barnes & Noble. And this was like around the same time that like The Fault in Our Stars came out. And the one thing I remember about these books is usually in publishing, when you have a hardcover, it takes about a year for that book to come out in paperback. When this series and The Fault in Our Stars and stuff was coming out, there was a thing going on in publishing where they wanted the hardcover available for as long as possible. And so I think I read Divergent in paperback, but then Insurgent came out and it took years to get the paperback for Insurgent. Same thing with Fault in Our Stars. I had so many people come in to the bookstore wanting Fault in Our Stars in paperback, and I literally had to tell them that it's been 3 years now and we don't have a paperback. They just hadn't done a paperback. I don't know why they were doing that except for to maybe get more money, but it was taking forever, and I am that person that will not get books that don't match. Like, unless I have to because it's out of print. If I have a hardcover, I'm getting a hardcover. If I have a paperback, I'm waiting for the freaking paperback. And it took so long to get a paperback of Insurgent that I decided I wasn't going to continue. Like, I just was like, nope, I don't remember anymore. So, yeah. I also DNF'd the Shadow Promised series by Rebecca Royce. I read 1 book out of 3. I can't tell you anything about it. I don't remember. I also DNF'd the I think it's supposed to be Last Hope series by Rebecca Royce. However, I really don't remember. I don't know. Okay. I DNF'd the Chocoverse series by Amber Royer. I read book 1 out of 3. This is the worst book, pretty much the worst book that I've read of all time. I'm sure I can maybe think of like one other one. I hated this book with the power of a million suns. I hated it. Anytime that I've ever talked about a book that I hated on my channel, it is this one. I hated it so much. Okay, no. I DNF'd the drama series by Paul Roditis. This is a series that I read back in probably high school or college. They are very YA high school theater kid stuff. I liked what I read, but I was never able to get my hands on book 4. I don't remember if it was just not out yet at the time I was reading these, but eventually got to the point where I was just not interested anymore. Like, I'm now 36. I don't think I need to be reading books about theater kids in high school, but if you are a theater kid or anything like that, they were fun. Let's go down more. Okay, so we have the Cirque du Freak series by Darren Shan. I read book 1 out of 12. I think Cirque du Freak was back in elementary school, and I just never continued. It's vampires, but yeah. I also DNF'd the Tech War series by William Shatner. I read 3 out of 9 books. I had a Star Trek phase. I really did, and I was into it. So much so that I read William Shatner and a ghostwriter's books that are sci-fi and a little bit weird and misogynistic and things, and why did I read 3 of them before I decided to DNF? I cannot tell you. I DNF'd the Unwindistology by Neil Shusterman. I liked the idea of this one a lot, but again, I just never picked up the rest of the books in the series. I also DNF'd Article 5 by Kirsten Simmons. This is a book that I read the first one forever ago. Another dystopian one that, again, I think I liked it when I read it, but it's been forever. Next, I DNF'd The House at the Edge of Magic by Amy Sparks. I read this one last year. It's middle grade fantasy. I did not think there was enough world building for this one for me to enjoy, so I did DNF. Let's continue down. I DNF'd the Strange Angels series by Lily St. Croix. I read 3 books out of 5, and I DNF'd because I'm pretty sure the author was going to have the love triangle and not the way I wanted it to, and so yeah, I cut that off for myself because I was not having fun anymore. I DNF'd the X-Hex series by Erin Sterling. I only read 1 book, and I think there are more companion novels, so I could potentially eventually try them, but I only gave the first book 3 stars. I also DNF'd the Wolves of Mercy Falls series by Maggie Stiefvater. I read 2 out of 4 books, and this is just one of those things that, again, I read forever ago that I just don't think I'm going to continue. I DNF'd the God Hunter series by Amy Sumida. I read 2 books. This is a Why Choose romance series, but she like collects the guys as she goes, and I don't really like that trope. There was some darker themes to it that I didn't like as well, and there's 36 books in this series. Like, I'm just not doing that. I also DNF'd the Love Letter series by Anita Sunday. These are male-male romances, and I read 3 out of 4 books, but back when I read them, there were only 3. I don't think there was a 4th one out yet, and they were fine, and I just never picked up the 4th one. Then I also DNF'd the Ring series by Koji Suzuki. I read this last year, very much into the end of last year. Did not like how everything played out. Like, the movies are just so much better. And then I didn't really care to continue in the series. I actually like read some wiki articles about it to see like why it was a series, and it gets very convoluted. So yeah, no, I DNF'd that. I also DNF'd the We Are Bob series by Dennis E. Taylor. This is a sci-fi one that seemed very intriguing. It was indie published, and I think it now has been picked up traditionally. I am happy if you guys love it. It was just not really my thing. I also DNF'd the Honor trilogy by Lyra Thorson. This is another sci-fi. I read 1 book out of 3. It was fine. I gave it like 3 stars, just not enough for me to want to continue. Going down, I DNF'd the Spud series by John Vanderroot. Back when I read this, there was only 2 books out. Now apparently there's 5 books in the series. It is very upper middle grade, younger YA boys in a boarding school type of thing. And so again, it was fine. It's just not something I'm ever going to pick up again. I also DNF'd the Numbers series by Rachel Ward. This is another one that I would have read like in high school maybe. And so again, it's been forever. I could not tell you a single thing about it. I DNF'd the Royals series by Aaron Watt. This is a series that I read 3 books. I think it says I have 3 here. I DNF'd book 3. It is a very dark series, very questionable and has some problematic elements. And while I read the first two and was like okay with it, I just got to the point where I was annoyed with book 3. I think we had some elements of like stalking in a way, like the girl kept telling the guy, go away, leave me alone, and he wouldn't, and it was just like excessive, also obsessive, and I was just no. I DNF'd the Angel Burn series by L.A. Weatherly. This is actually one that I read the first book forever ago, can't really tell you much about it now, but according to Goodreads, I gave it like 5 stars. I really enjoyed it, but I never continued, and now I don't know anything else. I DNF'd the Young World series by Chris Weitz. This is another dystopian type of series that I think I was okay with for book 1. I don't remember anything else about it now, and so I won't continue. Oh, we're getting to the end of the list. Yay. I DNF'd the Impossible series by Nancy Werlin. This one I read forever ago. I don't remember anything about it, so I will not be continuing. I DNF'd the Leviathan series by Scott Westerfeld. This is like an alternate history World War I with mechas and stuff. I enjoyed my time with it, but it's very hard to get a hold of, or at least it was back in the day. Book 2 and 3, and it got to the point where I was just like not interested anymore. I DNF'd, oh, it says I DNF'd The Once and Future King by T.H. White. However, there's only 5 books in the series and I read all 5, so I did complete that. I will say the only reason I read this is at one point in time I was a very big Merlin and King Arthur like geek, and the last book I hated. I gave it 2 stars, but I did finish it, so that's actually not a DNF. Let's continue. I DNF'd the My Pack series by Lane Witt. I read 2 books out of 3. This is a wide shoes paranormal romance with werewolves, but I think back in the day there was only 2 books out when I read it. I liked it well enough. I don't think I would ever go back and reread, and I never picked up book 3. Then again, I also DNF'd the Pink Carnation series by Lauren Willig. I read the first book. I gave it 5 stars. It's The Secret History of the Pink Carnation. I absolutely loved that book, but the entire series is historical. I am not a historical person. It's not even like a historical romance. It's from the literary section. I am not a literary fiction girl. I don't remember what incentivized me to pick up that first book in the series. I loved it, but ever since then, I just don't think I would enjoy the rest of the books, so I haven't continued, but I did really like the first one. Then I also DNF'd the Blood Heir series by Amelie Wen Zhao. I read the first book. I was okay with it. I was wanting more. It almost felt like we had a lot of filler in it, and I was sort of wishing that that book would have just been like a standalone and we finished the whole thing in the one book. But I would be interested to read more by this author. And then the last one I have here is I did DNF the Dragon Warrior series by Katie Zhao. It is a 2-book middle grade fantasy series, and I read book 1. It was fine, but again, it just got to the point where I was like, I don't really think I'm interested in picking up book 2. Like, I easily could, but yeah, it's fine. So I think officially now, because I actually had one that I did complete, I'm still at 52% finished, but it changed a little bit. I'm at 51 total, like actually finished the series, completed them things, and only 116 DNF'd series. That's still a lot. It is. I guess the next time we come back and do another one of these videos, it's gonna be my 157 current series. We're gonna turn that off. That is going to be a lot. That's going to be a lot to do, but I do think I want to at least show the baseline of my current series, so that maybe the beginning of next year we can talk about what changed with my series, things that I've started new, things that I've hopefully actually finished, or maybe things that I DNF'd to change my numbers around. Yes. I don't know when we're going to do that because I have some other videos planned soonish, but maybe next month we'll have my total series that I'm like still thinking I'm in the middle of. And so that is going to be it for me today. Like I said, these are all the series that I DNF'd. Some of them are because I didn't like them. Some of them are because I just sort of fell out of interest with them, but I could potentially be persuaded to try them again. Yeah, I think that's gonna be it for me today. I did DNF quite a few. And so I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, give it a thumbs up to let me know. Subscribe to this channel if you'd like to see more videos. I do have videos coming out Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, so I will see you then. Bye!